I get to interview a tall person. I'm so happy. You happy? Hi there. It is with such great pleasure and enthusiasm that I welcome Kelsey Chomistek to our ABN Speakers Corner at this year's Canadian Rheumatology Association annual meeting, as well as the Arthritis Health Professions Association
Great, thank you so much for
meeting.
having me.
We are so excited to have you. And you're a legend in arthritis. For our Facebook fans, this is live. We've pulled Kelsey out of the meeting. She's a real superstar. She's actually at the meeting and has a very special role presenting on barriers at school for children with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And not only from a research perspective do you know about this topic, but Kelsey has lived it. She's walked in the shoes in which she now teaches. You're a person living with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. She's also a huge dynamo and a mover and shaker in our community. She started the first teen arthritis group in Canada in partnership with the Arthritis Society. You've done many things since, I know. So I'm going to stop there, welcome you to our Speakers Corner, and I just want you to tell us a little bit about yourself to start.
Sure.
And your role here, not only as a researcher, but I guess that hat you put on as a patient, listening to what's happening at this meeting, and also as a presenter. So maybe give us kind of those, scaling up, lead it maybe with a crescendo on your own presentation.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
So I was actually diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis myself when I was 14, and my disease was actually quite severe. So I was diagnosed in 30 joints, and so clearly that's been difficult to handle, and it still remained uncontrolled. But as my disease has progressed, that's kind of been my prime motivator to getting more involved in the arthritis community. And for me, my way of doing that was being involved as a consumer in advocacy, as well as in research, and kind of having a partnership with both worlds. So I got involved in pediatric rheumatology research at the Alberta Children's Hospital about 4 years as soon as I graduated high school, and I've loved it. Obviously, I've ended up here today.
And it loves you, no doubt.
So from the research side of that, and then I've also remained quite involved with the Arthritis Society as well. So last year we actually founded the Teen Arthritis Group. I have to thank my other two co-members for that, Kieran and Jocelyn. And
yay, go team!
Thank you for all of your help with that. And yeah, different things kind of with that. So it's been a journey for sure, but a great one, and hope that I can see to progress over the years.
So tell us, Kelsey, diagnosed at 14, you had a really horrific onset. So many of us out there in Facebook land, in our community, that resonates with us. Certainly it does with me. I went from being an Olympic caliber athlete to wheelchair bound in about a month. So I too have walked in those shoes. But when you face it as a child, or as just having entered your teenhood, I don't think most people in society really get it, and what that's like for a person that age. Can you just touch on that a little bit? What happened to your world when you were diagnosed?
Sure, so just kind of a brief understanding what my life was like. I was a competitive dancer 7 days a week, very similar to you. And as everyone knows, teenagers and sports, it's a big deal. Like, that's kind of where your life revolves around. And I'd say the second thing that your life revolves around is your friends and your social environment. So once you get diagnosed with the disease, it's something you're being told that you can't be active. I was told that I need to stop dancing. My dance teachers actually asked me to leave my studio.
Oh my God.
And then you're also facing kind of that social discrimination. Your friends don't quite understand your disease. There's problems at school. They don't understand why you're tired, why you don't want to go out with them. So it's a huge change in a teenager's life at that time.
I mean, I sit there and I go, oh my God, what would my childhood have been like had I been diagnosed earlier? And I sort of just, my whole teenhood flashed before my eyes with your description. It's so amazing. And I don't think people generally understand the impact on that social circle. And especially at that age, when you're really fighting sort of to be one of the gang, to fit in,
to be normal.
Exactly, and interestingly, I developed it as an adult. So many of my colleagues here at this meeting developed it in adulthood. And it's not dissimilar. We too try to fit in to our social circles that suddenly don't quite fit anymore because our bodies don't fit into that mold anymore. Tell us about then that journey into the school.
Yeah.
and how your own experience in school informed the work that you've done around barriers in school for children with juvenile idiopathic arthritis.
Sure, so that was actually a huge motivator for my study here at the CRA this year. Is in grade 12, I actually missed almost 50 days of school for appointments, and for kind of a very ambitious student who likes to do well in school. I think
Were you a nerd? Come on.
A little bit. I would admit, I was definitely an overachiever in high school. Getting to school was important for me, and there's concerns. There's concerns about being able to get into the university that you want, to be able to get the job that you want. At that time, I wanted to be a surgeon. I laugh at that now.
Oh.
So
You've still got lots of time to do that.
Still some time, maybe not with these hands.
Yeah.
But so that was definitely a motivator. So with my clinic and my team at the Alberta Children's Hospital, we wanted to create a survey to kind of identify these barriers. There have been surveys to look at barriers at school for children with chronic disease or disability, but to our knowledge, there's been no barriers or surveys to identify barriers at school for children with JIA. So we came up with a survey to identify school attendance and performance, how JIA-related symptoms, like we talked about, pain, fatigue, and other symptoms impact school, participation with classmates and peers, communication, another huge factor with teachers, classmates, and friends, as well as school support. And the results of our study did show that about 42% did experience physical challenges at school, which was quite large, and only 21% were using accommodations. There was also some problems with participation, as well as communication. Most patients didn't feel comfortable talking to their teachers about their disease, as well as classmates and friends. About 84% told their classmates about their disease, whereas only 84% told their friends, whereas only 42% told their classmates. And we also,
so again, that's the stigma, right?
The stigma.
They want to keep it
Exactly.
hidden.
Yeah. And with that, there was a theme of social anxiety there. So they were worried about being unable to participate. They were worried about looking like they weren't trying or being told they were faking their illness.
Yeah.
So our results of our study did show some challenges, and we'll definitely look into some solutions.
Yeah, because I think one of the things as a patient myself, and that I hear amongst our community leaders as patients, is, okay, the research is all great, but what are we going to do about it? Exactly. So I know our audience, that resonates in our audience. Okay, so now that we know that, what can we do? So if you were to look in your own, sort of crystal ball and say, what's in Kelsey's magic bag of tricks for kids to address some of these barriers, what do you think some of those solutions might be? I know you have to go away and work more seriously and give careful thought to it, but just as a person living with this disease yourself, now in adulthood, what do you think could be done to address those barriers for kids at school? Which is, let's face it, we spend a lot of time in school.
We do.
From, age 3 or 4 till about 18, and if you do, go on into university, even longer. So it's a huge chunk of our lives.
Yeah, so from a researcher perspective, there is some further research that needs to be done.
Yeah.
We'd like to conduct some focus groups and a qualitative study to come up with some solutions and involve stakeholders like the teachers, the education board, as well as partner with advocacy groups to implement these solutions. But kind of from a personal perspective, there's lots of things that can be done to improve your performance at school, whether that be proper organizational skills, things like carrying 2 sets of textbooks, so one at your locker and one at home, so you don't have to carry it, and really a huge focus on getting accommodations or a government-coded disability, because this allows you to have extra time on tests, to use a laptop in class to write your essays, and that even transfers through to your diplomas and university. So I found that's honestly been the biggest help for me.
Wow.
And it's important to recognize that, because there is kind of that social concern. Oh, if I use accommodations, are people going to think I'm different? But if you want to have good school performance and reach your education goals, that's kind of an obstacle that you just need to accept and kind of move forward.
Yeah, I think it's interesting whether, I assume, not having been a child with arthritis myself, but I'm assuming that, and the parent equation is an important one, so let's get to that actually. But I assume that, like it was for most adults, I think, and there's lots of research around this, it's hard to ask for help.
It is.
When you've been, independent and an athlete or, a super achiever or a big egghead in school or a nerd or whatever you are, whoever you are, to sort of break down and have to ask for help, for me, that was one of the biggest issues. Exactly. I didn't want to accept that I couldn't pick that up. or I couldn't move more quickly from point A to point B. Like I didn't want that to be my truth. And as soon as I realized, well, it is the truth, I found a way, I think, and my peer group began to support me in my effort to ask for help and not feel like I was a loser, actually. And I think for kids, I mean, if it's difficult for an adult, it's doubly difficult for a child. Tell us about the parent factor.
Sure.
Like, how does it, in your own view, as a person with juvenile idiopathic arthritis, thinking back, not too long ago, because you don't look actually much older than 14 now. How do you think it affected your parents and your siblings, if you have them?
Yeah, so that's a great question.
Yeah.
I do think that any child being diagnosed with the disease has a huge impact on your parents. The only wish for a parent is to have a healthy child.
Yeah.
And it was very hard for them, especially a disease like arthritis, when there's such limited knowledge available and it's presented as an elderly disease.
Yeah.
If you ask anyone, they think that arthritis happens in a 60-plus age group. The Tylenol arthritis commercials on TV, it shows elderly patients. So to be told that a child at 14 and even younger than that with juvenile arthritis has arthritis, there's a shock factor to that. And I think it took a good year of my patients, or of my family, to really just understand what that meant, and to understand that it would be a chronic disease. I'd have it for life. There would be appointments that I'd have to be going to. So it was an adjustment phase for sure. But I think for all of us, it brought us closer together. And I am really grateful for my family and my friends as well for that, because it really shows you what's important in life. And it shows you that your family will always be there.
You're going to make me cry. Stop it, Kelsey.
So, we saw it as a bonding experience. And I don't think it needs to be a burden. I think there's definitely an adjustment phase for a year. But after that, you know that you have that support system there, and I'm so thankful for them. And they'll be there as I move forward.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I've heard from a lot of different parents out in our audience, similar to you, that dynamic between, you know, child and parents, partners, is a difficult one, and it's so unique from family to family. But when I've seen in Cassie and friends, when those families come together, and there is always that common element, it's the shock factor, it's the struggle, it's this journey to understand what's happening to your child and accepting. It's the child getting over fear and the parent getting over fear. So everything is doubled in quantity, actually, I think, when a child gets arthritis.
I agree.
What do you think about the future for children with arthritis? You know, when you think of treatments that are available today, I know the treatment, particularly in the medication treatment for children with arthritis, is always a really difficult conversation for the pediatric rheumatologist, the child, if in fact they're old enough to be involved in that conversation, and the parent. Was that tough for you? Was it? I'm assuming you've been on medication.
I have been. I've actually tried almost every biologic drug available.
Oh, you have? Wow. Tell us about your decision-making process, or the conversation itself, because we don't think it's happening in the fullest, sort of richest way that it could. So we're looking to experts like you to help us. What would help kids or teens with arthritis and their parents better have that conversation with their rheumatologist? So just having the conversation and making a decision. These are those two things.
So to start, I think it's important to know that I think there's a really positive outlook for treatment course in arthritis as the year goes on. We do see that even over like the last decade, there's been a huge increase in the benefit of these biologic medications. Even recently, they started to come out with some oral biologic medications, which is really neat to see. So it's important to recognize that there is more drug options available, and they are increasing as the years go on. With kind of making the decision of what medications you move on, it is a personal choice. You do need to determine what's good for you and what's good for your doctor. But you also need to recognize that taking these medications do have an impact, and they can help your disease. And you kind of need to understand that as you move forward.
So the fear, and people don't obviously start on a biologic or a small molecule oral. They start with methotrexate or NSAIDs. How do parents overcome the fear of what might happen to the child in terms of side effects?
So I think,
so we know they work. We know they work very well, and we know they're, generally speaking, very, very safe. How do you get over the hump?
So I've tried almost every biologic that I've said, and side effects have always been a question. but I think you need to weigh, again, the side effects of having a severe chronic and debilitating disease versus the possible side effects of some of these biologic medications.
Boy, well said.
And as well as your quality of life. If you can take these medications and you can get back to doing the sports that you love, spending time with your friends and your family, and getting back to just being yourself, I think that's worth it for me. And if there is long-term consequences, which there may be, I think you just have to deal with those as they come.
appear. Yeah, I think that's really well said. And I think the other thing we need to know, and our viewers and Facebook community needs to know, is that it's not just about medications. I mean, education is the foundation for our journey with disease. You first have to learn about the disease, especially in childhood, and the parent-child bond in that learning experience is really, really important. You then need to recognize it's not just meds, that exercise, counseling, physical, occupational therapy. There is occupational therapy for children, and I think most people don't understand that. So it's really that holistic view towards living with childhood arthritis, in your case juvenile idiopathic arthritis, that I think our community really needs to hear, and also be comforted by that.
Exactly.
I want to ask you, as we round up our time with you, which you've been so gracious, I want to bundle you up and take you home with me. What at the meeting, I know the meeting's just started for you, what are you looking forward to? What do you want to learn at this meeting?
Yeah, for me, I'm actually really excited because I'm interested in pursuing a career in rheumatology. I'd like to do a master's once I finish my undergraduate degree with a specialization in joint injury and arthritis research. And eventually I'd like to become a pediatric rheumatologist myself. So new this year they actually introduced a career fair, which I think is such a great opportunity.
At this meeting?
At this meeting.
Oh, cool.
This afternoon, actually.
Oh, neat.
And I just think that's a great opportunity for trainees and medical students or undergraduates like myself to really learn about the field of rheumatology. I know there's a shortage of rheumatologists in Canada. I think there's about 400.
Yep.
So anything that we could do, especially as a consumer, to kind of promote this interest in rheumatology as a career, I think that would be really great.
You know, thank you for saying that, because it is one of the reasons we do this Speaker's Corner at this meeting, is to try to highlight to our fans, friends, subscribers, members, the importance of the rheumatology community and how great they are as a community. I don't know about you, but my own rheumatologist, I love him to pieces. He has changed my life. He is my partner in my journey. That's how I view him. And I trust him with, you know, some of those really difficult conversations and decisions that I need to make along the way. So thanks for highlighting the career fair. I think it's really important. Everyone run out and become a rheumatologist and a pediatric rheumatologist like Kelsey. She's going to need, you know, it is an aging community.
I do. Yeah.
There's a few gray hairs.
Sorry,
but we need young ones coming up, and we couldn't be happier to have had Kelsey with us. You're a delight. I've learned from you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We have time maybe for questions. If there are a couple questions, Anita, have you got anything for Kelsey?
Yeah, so there's someone who's saying that they themselves, they dance, and they want to know, how can someone with JIA continue to dance?
Sure, that's a great question. So a brief overview, I was actually a competitive dancer in genres like jazz, ballet, and tap, and I did actually continue to do it for a few years before I left my studio. I just reduced the level that I was doing, so either doing less classes a week, not doing so many competition levels, or avoiding things like doing points, even though I know that's such a great thing of ballet. And it's also important to have that support system. So I actually transferred to the salsa community, which was a huge switch. And it was very fun, and I found that getting out of the competitive environment and switching to a performing environment was just so much better for my health. And they were there to support me, and they were willing to work with me and let me take breaks in class. And I think that was kind of the key, is finding a good support system and knowing that you still can dance and you can stay active. That's exactly what you should be doing. Don't let arthritis stop you from doing your passion.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great question. And there you go. Keep dancing.
Yeah.
To the extent that you can, and possibly modify. Boy, I don't know how you ever got up on those little wooden blocks in the first place. Oh my goodness. Makes my feet hurt just thinking about it. Other questions, Anita?
So for someone who dance, how can they protect themselves from joint damage?
Great, so that's a good question as well. When I was dancing, I always made sure to take the proper precautions to look after my body. So I'd usually arrive an hour before class to properly stretch and warm up. I'd have heating packs, ice packs available. I would tape my ankles, proper like icing after dancing. So you just have to modify it. But I think the most important thing that I've learned as being a dancer is listening to your body. So know that kind of once you've reached that level of exhaustion or pain, that you need to take a break, stop, recoup, and then go back to it once you're feeling ready.
Yeah, great advice. I think people sort of forget about the things we do as prophylaxis or as preparation for our activity that we love, as well as what we do after that activity. Most of us who are able-bodied and not dealing with arthritis just run out and go do it and run off to do the next thing, and we forget that it takes time. Well, thank you for the questions. This interview and this repository of both beauty, grace, and health information on childhood arthritis will live on the Facebook site. You can continue to ask questions and we'll field them. If we can't answer them, we will ask our resident expert to give us a hand. But again, we want to thank you so much, Kelsey.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you graduate from med school and become a rheumatologist, one for children. I know you're going to be a fabulous doctor someday. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon.